Operational definitions. This is such an important concept and one that is so overlooked, but very, very powerful when applied correctly, or even at all, to be honest. An operational definition is just the concept that when you start an initiative, essentially before you do anything else, or as words, terms, and phrases come up or to your attention, you identify them and come up with a shared definition for the meaning of those words, right? Because we learn in communication that words actually are symbols that we assign meaning to, right? They don't have meaning in and of themselves, right? Words are a social construct, which means that one word can mean multiple concepts to various people. Even one word literally can have multiple meanings, like the word there, T-H-E-I-R, T-H-E-R-E, right? So it can be very difficult to run an improvement or have a discussion about what to improve if people are making assumptions about different terms, words, phrases, and keywords used in a discussion. Think of it this way. An apple is a very simple word, right? Everyone knows what an apple is, right? It's a piece of fruit. It is a piece of fruit. So simple. And so if I want to have a conversation with you, you might say, Charlene, why in the world are we stopping to define apple for an operational definition? Everyone knows what that is. Everyone knows it's a simple piece of fruit. That is true. But consider this. If I ask you to please go to the store and get me an apple, and you come back with the nicest, shiniest, greenest Granny Smith apples, I may be very disappointed as the recipient if my goal is to bake an apple cobbler. Because for an apple cobbler, what I really needed was a baking apple, like a Cosmos apple, right? So operational definitions essentially give us the ability to clarify and add context. So it is often the simplest words and phrases that have the biggest ability to create issues long-term in projects. So as you think about it, you're trying to improve something in the office, and maybe you want to increase the speed that claims are done. Define speed, right? Because if you say increase speed and you're thinking double, but your leader wants you to quadruple, you immediately have a problem where you'll never be able to satisfy the stakeholders in your initiative. So it is critical that you learn how to understand what words need an operational definition. Now, I will tell you, when I first started Lean Six Sigma, I used to define every single word, right? Not that I would necessarily hold a meeting with everyone to define them, but just for my own purposes. And the way I would do it is I would have those definitions, and then when the word came up, I would just do a quick pulse check of the room and say, okay, when you say this word, you mean this concept, right? And just to make sure. Over time, after running over 25 projects, it became clear to me what words within healthcare operations are universal versus which ones can carry different meaning from organization to organization or company to company, or sometimes even within an organization from one team to another. Charlene, what could you possibly mean? Let me explain. I have heard the word NPI, or acronym rather, NPI, almost my entire time in healthcare. Most people know what an NPI is. Does that mean we all think of it as the same thing? Well, I'm thinking of the National Provider Identification Number, right? The number that providers need to register for most networks. They go on the NEPS registry, they get it all created, and they're able to use it for various things within their practices. Well, I've heard other explanations for what that acronym NPI means within healthcare operations settings. It blew my mind. One time, my leader was talking to me at a new organization about NPI, and I just could not understand what was going on because we were talking about business, but we weren't talking about providers. Turns out in that department in particular, NPI stood for non-public information. All right. So operational definitions, very, very important. Get them squared away at the beginning of your project. Or if you hear someone use a phrase, you'll have to learn to start to question everything, because one word to you that you may think is obvious may not be so to everyone else. It will save you a lot of headaches, but honestly, Lean Six Sigma is all about learning from your failure. So if you do end up not being as thorough, you should end up with some good laughs at the end of your project when it all works itself out. Best wishes.